Very much, member. Recognizing our member from Abbotsford Mission.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Wow. It is early in the morning. I never thought I would be doing a speech this early in the morning, but here we are. The motion for second reading of Bill 9, entitled Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Amendment Act 2026, to be amended by deleting the word now and substituting 6 months hence. I want to be very clear from the beginning about what this motion is and what it is not. This is not a motion to shut the door on reform. It is not a motion to avoid scrutiny. It is not a motion to stop government from improving the system. This motion is asking government to slow down this legislation and get this right. Because this legislation deals directly with transparency, accountability, and the public's ability to access information from government. That should matter to every member in this House. When legislation affects the public's ability to scrutinize government itself, this House has a responsibility to be careful, not rushed, careful. Mr. Speaker, I consider it an honor and a responsibility in my role in this House to speak on the amendment, this hoist motion. I am reminded as I sit here that a couple weeks ago, a colleague on this side of the House tabled a petition with over 10,000 signatures on it. And I think as members of this House, when the public gets together and they sign petitions, they're sending a message. And I've heard my colleagues say it tonight, that when that happens, it is our responsibility to listen. And as opposition, we have done that by presenting this motion, this hoist motion, to say to the government, let's listen to the people, not just one-sided, but let's listen to the people together. Let's pause and actually show the public that we take power and we use power responsibly. I want to begin with this word that sits at the center of how I feel about this legislation, freedom. It is a word used often in this House, and sometimes we stop feeling the weight of it or hearing its weight. But freedom in the context of information is not an administrative language. It is democrative language. Freedom of information is one of the ways the public examines that power. It's how decisions are tested, and it is how conduct is questioned, and it is how accountability works outside of election season. Without it, government holds more information than the public. With it, the public has a way to challenge decisions, ask questions, and expect answers, and that matters. Because democracy is it's not only about casting a ballot every few years. It is also about whether people can question government between elections, whether records can be accessed, whether decisions can be reviewed. And that is why the official opposition has introduced a hoist motion on this bill. Because this House should never be in a rush to reshape legislation. We should never be in a rush when decisions we make on this floor affect people's lives and their families. Freedom of information is not a privilege, it is a public right. Question period is a part of that accountability. Independent officers of this legislature are part of that accountability. Free press is a part of that accountability. The courts are a part of that accountability. Freedom of information belongs in that same category, and when access to information becomes harder, accountability becomes weaker, and that is why this debate matters, and that is why a pause is absolutely necessary concerning this bill. Mr. Speaker, freedom of information does not exist because governments always volunteer the information the public needs. If that were the case, the system would not be necessary. Freedom of information exists for difficult situations, the disputed situations, the situations where answers are incomplete, delayed, or challenged. That is the point of the system. And that means requests will sometimes be broad, sometimes be repetitive, sometimes be persistent. But we cannot treat the public with disdain when they have questions. And that is why this motion to pause and to take the time to look at the bill and make sure that it satisfies that accountability measure. Having a pause could allow the government to define these terms. Terms like broad language around requests being abusive, malicious, repetitive, interfering with operations. A pause would allow the government to bring clarity and transparency and accountability to frame this bill. Mr. Speaker, I feel like the year and a half that I've been in this House, those words of clarity and transparency and accountability almost seep into every debate speech that I write. And so as a responsible member that has been elected to serve the people of my community, British Columbia, this hoist speaks to that responsibility. Because in pausing, you allow for clarity, you allow for transparency, you allow for accountability. If the government wants broader authority to delay or reject requests, then definitions matter. And if definitions matter, this House should take the time to get them right. And that is a great reason to accept this hoist motion. There is no ulterior motive in this, Mr. Speaker. For the official opposition to put a hoist motion on the table to ask the government to pause is not, there's no, oh yay, here, we're doing something that would benefit us. This is to benefit the public that we say we're serving. 6 months is not unreasonable when legislation affects the public's ability to scrutinize itself, especially when government has already amended its own bill during this debate. And the point should not be brushed aside. If in the middle of debate the government could amend the bill already in a span of 2 weeks, I think the credible response from the government is to also go, yes, let's take the time, let's look at the bill. The government describes those amendments as clarifications, but if clarification is still needed during the debate, then that tells this House something important. It tells us the language is still being worked through, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if the language is still being worked through, why force the bill through now? That's a fair question. Mr. Speaker, one of the concerns with this bill is not only what is written into it, It is also the pace at which the government is trying to move it forward. And that is why the official opposition has tabled a hoist motion to say to the government, we see you. We agree. It's moving too fast. You need some time. Take the time. Because this House is supposed to test legislation before power is expanded. That is a part of the job, especially when legislation deals with public accountability. And yet government is asking this House to approve broader discretion and broader removal powers while major concerns remain unsolved. As I understand it, that some of these recommendations from 2022, and I've heard members from the other side talk about committee and committee and committee, and how much time are we? Committee 2022, they still remain unfinished. And that should concern all of us. Because if there were a time to expand powers, there should have been time to complete recommendations that were already identified years ago. Hence why the official opposition has tabled a motion, a hoist motion, to allow for 6 months for the government to go back and reevaluate and create a bill that we can all champion in this place. Mr. Speaker, government says these changes are necessary to manage the system, but the ministry's own reporting shows access requests have dropped significantly over the last few years. So if there is proof and data that shows us that things are not working, this hoist motion is absolutely necessary and relevant to the conversation. British Columbians have a right to ask a simple question. If requests are decreasing, why are broader refusal powers suddenly necessary? That question deserves a real answer. Right now, people struggle to get information. They already receive records with major gaps. So the expectation would be, if there are gaps, then the government should do their due diligence to improve those response times, improve clarity, improve public confidence. I feel like as responsible MLAs, this hoist motion actually speaks to that responsibility that we have to British Columbians. They didn't send us to this place to rush things through and then have to go and re-change them, because that's all time. And so the hoist motion is designed for the government to be responsible. Be responsible. Take some time. Take some time. There's nothing wrong in taking time. We've already taken so much time. From 2022, we've already taken so much time. It's 2026. We're still trying to get it right. And so here is the opposition, official opposition. We've tabled a hoist motion and we said, take 6 months, get it right. It's already taking you 4 years, but okay. Take some more time and get it right. The people are depending on you to get it right. It is about being responsible with the power that you have to get it right. And that is what this hoist motion speaks to. Honourable Speaker, this government understands the value of pausing significant matters when concerns emerge. We recently saw proactive disclosure publications pause for months while government said it needed time to transition systems and modernize processes. We are also now watching the government pause further intakes under Childcare BC New Spaces Fund. So government clearly understands that when systems are under pressure, when implementation is uncertain, or when consequences require reassessment, a pause is justified. They have done it before. They have looked at things and go, okay, we need to actually pause this. We need to go back to the drawing table. It's the responsible thing to do, Mr. Speaker. It's happening right now in that sector. A pause is prudent. A pause is responsible. So if government believes months-long pauses are acceptable for proactive disclosures and major government programs like the New Spaces Fund, then surely this House can justify a 6-month pause on legislation that directly affects public accountability and access to information itself. Because there are few responsibilities more important than protecting the public's ability to scrutinize power. Oh, Mr. Speaker, wow. This is not an easy job. It's not. But leadership is not easy. And one of the things to leadership is listening. One of the keys to leadership and being a good leader is listening, is actually taking time to listen to the people that you promise to serve. That is what this hoist motion will do. That is what that says to the public. We are listening. We are listening to the taxpayer. We are listening to the single mother. We are listening. One of the clearest examples is the change from responding without delay to responding without unreasonable delay. Words matter in this legislation. Without delay sets a clear expectation. Without reasonable delay creates room for interpretation. This is not a small drafting change. It lowers the standard government is expected to meet. And this House should ask why that standard needs to be lowered instead of improved. And that is why this hoist motion is being suggested. The bill needs to be improved. Mr. Speaker, if the system is already too slow, why weaken the wording around delay? If people struggle to get answers, why add the possibility of fees? If concerns already exist around inconsistency, why expand undefined language? Those are practical questions that have not been clearly answered. A hoist motion would allow for those questions to be properly answered. Nobody in this House is arguing the system cannot be improved. The concern is whether the government is going to take the opportunity of a hoist motion and improve it right away. Because there is a difference between reform that strengthens public confidence and reform that makes scrutiny harder. And many people are looking and they feel like we're going in the wrong direction. Mr. Speaker, my job is to listen to the people we serve. I've said that. They elected us to amplify their voice. And so that is where over 10,000 people signed a petition to say we are not in agreement. Mr. Speaker, my role as critic for children and family development, I see what happens when people don't get clear answers and systems hold significant power over their lives. I hear from parents trying to understand decisions involving their children and youth who grew up in care. As a leader, when you listen, the fruit of that is tabling something that allows the other side to come to the table and actually work out something that is beneficial for these people. So it matters. For some families, this is not just about paperwork, it's about understanding the decisions that change their lives. And government should be very careful about making the process harder. I said in this house a few days ago that I feel like I'm living this out in real time. I've had countless hours of conversations with parents and community providers that are struggling with funding cuts. This hoist
Member,
motion,
I do want you to speak about this motion. Thank you.
This hoist motion says to them, because they're asking, Mr. Speaker, they're asking for a pause. They don't understand why government would not pause and come to the table and work out a plan that actually benefits every single person. This is what this hoist motion is. Does not put a certain person in a category and go, you alone benefit. The hoist motion gives the government the ability to sit back down at the table and go, have we thought of everything? Have we looked at every angle? Are our decisions so siloed that we can't actually come together, cross ministries, and come up with a bill that actually serves British Columbia? I don't understand why this is so hard, Mr. Speaker. I really don't. I don't come from a political background, but I do not understand when we hold some of the most effective power in this place, that we won't slow down and pause to make sure that something that we design is actually benefiting the people we serve. The hoist motion, Mr. Speaker, at least gives us a glimmer of hope that the government is willing to listen to people in British Columbia and come up with a plan that doesn't just serve one set of people, but actually benefits every member, every tax-paying member of this province. Accountability, transparency, clarity, these are not things that are hard. I believe a hoist motion gives the government an ability to say to British Columbians, we see you. We often say that in this place. We see you, we hear you. Words matter, Mr. Speaker. They carry weight. And so this motion being tabled and us even debating it into the wee hours of the morning, I mean, maybe it's a game. Maybe it's a game, but for me, Mr. Speaker, it's not a game. I didn't come here to play a game. I came here to serve the people of British Columbia, and I believe that the hoist motion sends that message so clear, that we're listening, we hear you, we see you, over 10,000 signature petition, and we're standing up to speak, because not everybody gets the privilege of sitting in this house and speaking and using their voice in this way. I also want this house to think carefully about who carries the burden when access becomes more difficult. It's not often an institution, it is often the family. A pause brings a measure of trust. that government is actually listening. Oh. Mr. Speaker, a hoist motion exists because not every bill should proceed immediately, simply because government has the vote or votes. Majority power does not eliminate democratic responsibility. And the purpose of this motion today is simple. Pause the bill, slow the process down, allow greater scrutiny, allow greater public discussion, allow members of this House to fully consider whether legislation expanding government discretion over access to information is truly in the public interest. Because once a bill passes, those powers will not belong only to this government, they will also belong to every future government. And this House should think very carefully before creating precedents that make scrutiny harder. Mr. Speaker, freedom of information is not an inconvenience to democracy. And it is why we feel that 6 months is reasonable. We could have put it longer. 6 months to define the language clearly. 6 months to consult more broadly. 6 months to complete recommendations already identified years ago. 6 months to produce legislation British Columbians can trust. This shouldn't be controversial. It is democracy. It is one of the ways the public tests power between elections. It is one of the ways truth surfaces. And it is one of the ways accountability survives. When legislation risks weakening that safeguard, even a little bit, this House should not rush forward. It should pause. And that is why I support the 6-month hoist motion on Bill 9. I will debate this any day, any time of day, because I understand why I'm here and what I stand for. And I would hope that members on the other side also would consider why they're here, who they're here for, and how their decisions affect British Columbia. It's because what we're hearing is that we have a government that is not listening. And so I implore them to accept this hoist motion, to approve this hoist motion, to vote yes on this hoist motion and do due diligence on why they are in this place and who they're serving. Because the hoist motion doesn't benefit us. It's not for us. The bill, it's for us, but it's not for us. It's for them. It's for the people at home. It's for the people watching. It's for them. So I employ the government to make decisions that have British Columbians at the center. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very